Hi everyone, I'm Steve Stoller.
And I'm Shauna Haley, and this is Inside Plano, where we take you behind the scenes of our city.
We'll introduce you to the faces and places who help make this a great place to live.
And give us lots of reasons to love Plano. Welcome to episode 49 of the Inside Plano podcast with myself, Shauna Haley, and my counterpart,
Steve Stoller.
Steve Stoller.
Hello, Shauna.
Hi, Steve.
It's hard to believe, number 49, that we're almost at a half century. Can you believe that?
You know, just that number is just so very real to me, since I also crossed that half century line. So now I'm crossing it in the podcast too. It's very exciting.
You know, I won't give away my age, Shauna, but I will tell you I crossed that threshold an extremely long time ago.
No one would guess it. No one would guess it. Ooh,
But
man.
we've got a lot to talk about today.
Yes. So, you and I have been chatting quite a bit about, because we take a look at the feedback we're getting from residents for a multitude of reasons. We want to make sure that we're answering questions that are being asked. We use a lot of that in the Stroller on the Street video series too, using the questions that were asked. And this last month, we noticed kind of a trend of a lot of questions about really basic information that you kind of need to know if you live here to make your life easier. And I think that what that tells us, Steve, is that we have a lot of new residents. Not that the city's growing, but we've seen a lot of home sales and turnover in the city, right?
Correct.
So what we thought we would do today is kind of work our way through just some of the bottom line things that maybe it might make life a little easier for you. And one thing that I'm just going to pitch, some of these things are on this document and some are not, but this is a good working list. Let's see if for those of you who are on the video podcast, hopefully you can see this that I'm holding up. It's the new resident checklist. This is also a digital document, which is great because it refers to all kinds of digital resources and links for you to get to things. So we'll include that in the show notes, but we're using this as kind of our script, so to speak, of the day, of different services that the city provides, that if you live in Plano and you're in a house or an apartment or a senior living community, if you're here, you might want to know about these services. What do you say?
Let's start off by talking about social media, and we'll get a little further into this a little later in our podcast. But how do you sign up for the social media channels, and which ones?
Yeah, so cities on more than 40 channels. There's no way on earth that anybody wants to follow 40 different channels, but primarily we have a presence on Facebook, on Instagram, Twitter, Reddit, and Nextdoor, as well as YouTube. We count YouTube as a social channel. We do have a quick link that can get you to all of the social channels. If you click on that, then you see a chart and it'll show you the city's main channels, and it'll show you by department. So if you're a big Parks and Rec user, you might want to follow the Parks and Rec's channels. If you're a Plano library person, if you like to listen to breaking news about storms, you might want to follow emergency management. All of them are there in a simple, easy to find resource online.
You can also receive emergency alerts. We have a service called Plano City Call. Sean, tell us briefly how that works.
Yep. Sign up for notification of your choice. That can be a text message, that can be an email, it can be a phone call, or it can be a combination of all. And if there's an emergency situation, we use that service to notify you. By the way, we also use it for some non-emergency situations. If you want to know why the sirens are being sounded outside of an emergency, you can indicate that on your account too. So you'll be notified when it's Test the Sirens Day, which, by the way, happens once a month. Steve, we used that quite a bit, didn't we, during the winter storm?
Yes, we did. A lot. And, you can also get reminders on your collection service. A lot of times we have holidays and you're wondering, well, when is my trash going to be picked up this week, or my recycling? And you can actually get those reminders.
Absolutely. And there's a separate little thing that you fill out. You can choose the time that you want it to come. There are three different time choices. Again, you can do text message or email. One of my favorite little tips is if you're a parent and you're wanting to teach your kids responsibility, and one of those responsibilities is it's your job to take the trash cart out. Sign your child up if they have a cell phone, and we'll text them and remind them to take it out. Steve, what about newsletters?
Yeah, we have a lot of electronic newsletters. You can find them online, but they're also distributed via email and you can sign up for them. And gosh, how many do we have, Sean? I want to say we have at least 9 that are geared for our residents and another one that's geared toward commercial businesses and all
Absolutely.
kinds of things. And
Mhm.
Parks and Recreation, Live Green in Plano, Plano City News. I'm leaving out a lot.
Well, exactly. Even one directly for seniors, and
Sage.
we were joking about both of us crossing that half century mark. But one thing I did notice, Steve, was when I got to my late 40s, like my parents got older. Like some of the information that is in that senior adult newsletter, it's called Sage. It was very useful to me as a 50-year-old. Those resources to help my parents. Like I don't know how to get family members signed up for Medicare and all of the questions you have to work through. And gosh, all of that's in that newsletter. So that's a great resource. What about voting? And let's say you move. Can you update your address? Is that an easy to do thing? Yes, it is. Vote.gov is a simple way. So we've got all of those resources online too, because a lot of people know that you should vote every 4 years in the presidential election, but really you should vote every time there's an election, right, Steve?
Absolutely. I remember one time I interviewed the late Gladys Harrington, who one of our libraries is named after. And the story I did was that she had voted in every single election since the day she was eligible to vote. Amazing woman. But,
That's
we talked about how important it was for her to vote in every election. And just like it is for our residents.
Well, we did a recent stroll around the street on this next item. Our council members. So, can you explain how our council members
Sure.
work here in Plano?
So a lot of people will always ask us, Shauna, who is my city council member that represents me? And, some of them have certain places where they have to live in that particular place or district. But all of our city council members represent the entire city. So instead of having one council member that just represents you, you have 8, including the mayor.
And some of them have to live within a district, but that doesn't mean that they represent just that district, right?
Correct. Right. All the council members represent the entire city of Plano.
So, another thing that a lot of people don't know is that it's actually part of our city ordinances that if you have a pet, you register that with the city of Plano. And that's not just because we're nosy about pets. It helps if you are ever on Nextdoor, you know that kind of the top posts are lost dogs and found dogs. So having your pet registered helps your pet get home to you if something happens and they get outside the house. So we have links on how to do that. By the way, it's very affordable, and there's even a senior rate if you're over a certain age.
Right. And of course, we now have a city podcast that we've done 49 different times. Shauna, why don't you tell our listeners, our viewers, how to sign up for Inside Plano, the podcast?
Yes, if you are a podcast listener, which obviously you are, unless you're just discovering this on our YouTube channel, since we do have video version, you can go to your favorite podcasting platform, and I promise you, we're there. We're on Stitcher, we're on Spotify, we're on iHeart, we're on Apple, and just click the subscribe button, and it'll just download to your favorite device. At the beginning of the month, we release episodes on the first of the month every month. And I'm really excited that this year we've added to our podcasting family, and we've welcomed our counterparts at Plano Public Library. And the Library Speaks podcast now is distributed, and that also downloads on the first. So subscribe to both of them.
And speaking of libraries, if you live in Plano, you got to have a public library card. Shauna, libraries are so much more than books now. I mean,
Mhm.
that's just a small part of it. Why don't you talk a little bit about all the different things that our libraries provide?
I almost feel like I should like high five you and have you do that because you've done several Stoller on the streets on those. Everything from 3D printing to
Mhm.
how many languages, are in the libraries. It's crazy.
Yeah, well, our librarians speak 26 different languages
Wow.
in the libraries. And the digital creation space is also really neat. A lot of students take advantage of that if they have a project that involves some type of digital processes. Uh, they have all these technology components at their disposal right there in one room. They have so many things going at the library. They really do.
Yeah, it's great. And so, like, when you're talking about digital things, listeners, that's things like, hey, I want to do a podcast, but I don't want to invest in the equipment. That's in the digital creation space. I'd like to do a video series. Well, they have video recording capabilities there, not only to record with a green screen behind you so you can do whatever you want, digitally behind you, but then they also have the editing. They have the Adobe Creative Suite. So it's, holiday card time or, graduation announcements and you want to design a custom card, go to the library. You don't have to buy the software at home. You can use what's there. And they also, I was just talking about this with some people who work for our team. They have LinkedIn Learning is free as part of your library card. So one of my team members was saying, hey, I realized I don't like taking the tests, but I love going to class. I love learning. And I was like, oh my gosh, use LinkedIn Learning because there are amazing classes, certification programs, and you don't have to pay for that continuing education. It's there and available.
Shauna, not enough can be said about our award winning parks and recreation and trails. I
Mm.
mean, what incredible amenities, the pools that we have, amazing amenities here in the city of Plano.
Yep, we'd say that's one of our crown jewels of the city. Our city planners, and I don't mean like planning staff, but the visionary leaders on city council, early members of city staff, just made some really incredible decisions about how the city would be laid out with a park. I think the stat is 78% of our residents live within a 10-minute walk of a
Wow.
park. That's just incredible. And so you have neighborhood parks, you have the preserves that you've talked about before, and all of the trails, paved and unpaved, and it's just amazing what's available to you, and it really does make life great. You guys are out on the trail. You do a lot of cycling, and I think you do the bike trails, which are road trails, right?
Correct. Right. Yeah, they have signs all throughout the city that actually tell you what route to take on these bike routes. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
So you can find if you're like me, well, so you could be like Steve and you could go ahead and hop on the trails and find and follow the signage, which is really great. If you want to plan your routes, if you're a person who likes parameters and I'm that person, you can go online and you can look at, they've got all the trail maps there. So it's pretty cool. You have both options. Same thing is true with road construction. I cannot tell you how many emails I get in a week from people who are asking, like, why is this road under construction? I don't even know how many Stoller on the streets you've done about construction in roads, but that's all online, right?
Yes, there's a place you can go where you can find the latest information about road construction across Plano. And, it's really important to go there and to learn that information because that will help you avoid some of these construction spots where lanes are reduced. And if you know in advance and you plan ahead, you can avoid some of those routes and have an easier way to get to wherever it is you're going.
Absolutely. Another kind of top grouping of questions that we get from people is like, whose responsibility is it to take care of fill in the blank? The abandoned car in front of my house, the leaning light pole in my neighborhood, high grass that's in the median, like all of those kinds of questions. Our team worked with our counterparts throughout the city because actually multiple departments and sometimes not even our departments like light poles belong to Encore. It's hard for everybody to know that, so they have created a graphic that's called who do you call. And
Mhm.
if you don't want to use fix it, you could look at this one one graphic and it shows you, if it's this, this is who it is. And here's a quick number. Of course, you can always use Fix It for all of those and we can redirect, but that graphic is a super helpful tip so you know whose responsibility it falls within, whether it's yours or somebody else's.
Shauna, you mentioned Fix It. Some people who are coming to Plano who haven't been here for a while may not know what the Fix It app is all about. You see a pothole, all you need to do is go on this app. You can report the pothole and a whole myriad of other issues throughout the city. And they will go to the appropriate departments and they will get action.
Absolutely. And you can do that by an app. You can do that online. There's a web form. So you don't have to. A lot of people are like, I don't want to be the person that they track. If I submit it, I don't want people to know that I turned in a problem. Well, cool. You can do it as a visitor. You don't have to create a managed account and provide your name and information. We just really want to know about the problem. But if you want to give your contact information and actually sign up online or through the app, then that allows you to check on the progress. So you can see, is this even in the work order system? Has it been finished? So, you have the best of both worlds.
Shauna, we have a non-emergency number.
Yep.
Talk a bit about why it's so important for our residents to have access to this number and even to put it in their phone.
Absolutely. There are a lot of times that you need to get in touch with the city, so specifically with police, and it's not really something that you would consider a 911 situation. So it's not like breaking, send a police officer in the next 3 minutes kind of situation, but you need to let the police know that something's going on. So for example, for me, sometimes if I see a fender bender or here's an example. I was driving on Spring Creek the other day and I was near 75. I was going eastbound and an 18-wheeler got stuck making the turn from Spring Creek onto the access road of 75. Right there, there's a gas station there and a Walmart. And there was no way that 18-wheeler was moving anytime soon. And it wasn't really a dangerous situation, but it was one of those things that I was like, I think it might be kind of nice to have some police maybe come out and direct traffic because this is going to be difficult that's kind of a tough corner anyway, but it's going to be really hard. So I didn't want to be the person that called 911 to say, hello, there's an 18-wheeler stuck. So I called the non-emergency number. Here's the fun fact. It's the same group of people answering the phone. So, but what they're doing is they're triaging. So it's like going into the ER and having like, is this an emergency situation? Can this one wait a little while longer? That's how it works. So it's a good number to put in your phone and to keep in your phone because there are lots of times things like that happen. So we'll put this in the show notes, but I'm going to tell you all the phone number a couple of times in my best phone number voice. It's 972-424-5678. Again, 972-424-5678. So program that in your phone and use it.
Let's talk about our incredible volunteers. We actually have a program we call VIP, stands for Volunteers in Plano. And it amazes me at how many people in this city offer their time and their sweat to just help out. And all they really get out of it is serving their community. They're not asking for any monetary payout. They're doing it because they love Plano and they want to volunteer their time. And it's funny that I think our two largest departments that have volunteers are the police department and the animal shelter.
Really?
And it's amazing, Shauna, if you look at the number of hours that these volunteers put into the city every year and what the monetary worth is of those man hours, it's usually up into the millions of dollars. It's just phenomenal that people help like that. So it's
is it all kinds of volunteer service? I mean, do you have any examples of things that people do to volunteer?
Well, I went and I did a Stoller on the Street that I shot the other day, and I just wanted to get some video. I went actually to the Sam Johnson Recreation Center, and some of the women who prepare the food, but they have incredible lunches there at the Sam Johnson Center. Some of the women that are in the kitchen preparing the food every day are volunteers.
Oh,
Then I
wow.
went over to the animal shelter and they have dog exercisers. They put in maybe a 4-hour shift at one time and they take the dogs from the runs into the back area and they take them outside and the dogs run around and they get loved on and they get an array of toys to play with. So yeah, it's amazing. It's
Oh,
amazing.
that's incredible. And I was thinking I've used volunteers before for like special events that we're trying to get ready for, and we have, we need to stuff a bunch of event bags, like little thank you bags. And there are some volunteers that's what they love to do. And it's like it's a small group. They like to work together because basically it's an activity and you get to do it and talk to your friends at the same time. And I'm like, man, they saved us so much time because in an hour and a half of just stuffing bags, we were able to work on some other projects while they got that achieved. So, but I kind of like the idea of exercising dogs. That would be a great
Yeah.
gig.
It's rewarding. It really is too. I mean, they meet new people, they make a lot of friends, and they just, I don't know, when they leave, it seems like they all have a really good feeling. And they're all doing, when they go to the VIP program, there's like a coordinator in the office, and they kind of suit people to whatever their desires are. So people who love animals may want to work at the animal shelter. Some people love the fact that they're helping out law enforcement. Some people love the outdoors. They might go to volunteer at our Parks and Recreation department. They put you with where your interests and loves are, which is just a wonderful program.
Wow, that is awesome. Well, like I said, all of these things and more are on our new resident checklist, and we'll put links to all of these things as well as the checklist in the show notes. But before we go on to our next segment, I do want to plug one other thing for folks who just don't know about things in the city, and it is this really amazing video series that's put together by my counterpart, Steve Stoller. It's called Stoller on the Street, and we started this, I want to say, mid-fall, but we've already done more than 40 episodes. And Steve, it's an incredible series. You want to talk about it a little bit?
Yeah, we started it in August. And I think the premise from the beginning, Shauna, was that we literally offer hundreds and hundreds of services and amenities at the city of Plano. We have 286,000 plus residents that live here. And, it's just common sense. Most people, including people who have been longtime residents like us, don't even know about any of these services that are provided by the city. And one message that we're always trying to get out to the public is that we as a city government really do provide a very high value of service to our citizens. So what better way to inform our residents, the public, than to have these little video series that every episode will explore a service or an amenity that we provide to the city. And it's funny because I've even heard from a lot of people we work with here at City that will come to me and say, gosh, Steve, I never knew that. Misting stations on the trails, where in the heat of the summer, you might be walking or jogging along the trail, you get a little overheated, you may get dehydrated. You come to these places and you push a button in and it's like a mist that comes out so you can get some water on you and get hydrated. And people have told me, I didn't know we had misting stations along the trails. We start so many of these episodes with the phrase, did you know? And in most cases, they didn't. They didn't. And we're providing them. And I'll tell you, I was going through the list this morning, actually, I think to this point, we've actually put out 40 of them since August 28th was the first one we posted. And it's amazing the variety of topics that we've covered. And another thing that we've learned is when something comes up, what we in the business used to call breaking news, things that are unforeseen, like we had a few weeks ago, a pretty big water main break out on Jupiter Road. When something comes up, there's no hard schedule. It's incredibly flexible. We can go out and we can shoot this breaking news and get the messaging out as quickly as possible, with video, and we do it in a very conversational way. So the feedback we've gotten is that people really enjoy seeing these pieces and they're learning a lot about their city.
Yeah, I think what I like about it is that it's just there's a term in marketing that I actually don't like, but it applies really well to this. It's snackable. It's like just a little itty bitty bit of information that it's not too much. And in fact, Steve, I don't think any of them have been more than 60 seconds. It is so easy to
Right.
watch it really quickly and you're like, "Oh, I didn't know that." And so, like, my message for residents is don't feel bad if there are lots of things that you don't know, because there are lots of things we don't know either. We're learning all the time, the different options that are available, and we're happy to share those with you. And as you ask us questions, then we put it in for both the podcast and for the Stoller on the Street series. So you can subscribe to it if you want to through YouTube, and you'll get notified every time a new one releases, or you can just follow us on social media because they're released there as well.
And Shauna, while we have the opportunity, I'd really like to show you this really heavy, burdensome camera that I shoot the series with. Would you like to see it?
Yes, I do. I do. But
Oh gosh, it's so heavy.
when you get up his iPhone,
I
get
shoot every episode with my iPhone.
yep.
And
Well,
the
that's also
amazing thing
great.
to me is, it's HD. It's the quality of the video on this iPhone is amazing to me that a little phone like this can shoot such high quality video. And then we have a little wireless microphone that we use, and the transmitter is on the microphone. The receiver plugs right into the bottom of the phone, and we have really good quality audio and good quality video from this little thing.
Yep.
And
And then
I got to tell you, I got admission to make. I broke down and bought a selfie stick.
it's okay. He play, podcast listeners, you have to go and watch the episode that deals with scooters in the park. Of course, we have all the outtakes from that, and we laughed a lot because a selfie stick and a scooter and Steve, that was a challenge.
Not a good combination. We actually had to go out and shoot it again with a GoPro because what I tried was not going to work.
We do have a staff member who edits them together for Steve, but it's one of those series that it just doesn't cost a lot in time or in equipment, and it delivers a lot of value, like many of the services that you're highlighting in the series.
And honestly, it's so fun for me because, I did television news reporting for 34 years. And it's kind of like getting back out on the streets, and being able to use a little creativity in how we shoot the story, how we put it together. And I'll be honest, it's been a lot of fun for me. It really has. I really enjoy doing it. And, I'm getting educated too. I mean, every time I do a piece, I learn myself about my city and my community.
Just when you thought you were out, we pulled you back in.
Well, it's fun. Our special guest today is Abba Yaney, who's one of our communications specialists in the Communications and Community Outreach Department. Abba, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me on. I'm really excited.
Well, it's great to have you on the team. Now, you're responsible for social media, and we'll get into that. But first, we always like to start these interviews by asking our colleagues, what is it about them that most of us don't know?
I feel like the best way to describe me outside of the office is kind of my typical Saturday. So usually you can find me at my favorite coffee shop and then estate sale shopping and then maybe taking a walk because I love to, enjoy some outside time, and then usually spending some of the afternoon working on some art projects that I've got going on.
Wonderful.
Who's
So
an old
you are
soul.
I know.
you are the human behind the screen for many of our social channels, as we mentioned earlier. Just how many channels do you oversee?
So I directly touch and create content for on a regular basis 7 of our main channels. But then the city has more than 40. So I'm helping with, if any of those departments have questions related to their channels, we'll help with them with those.
So, why you said more than 40? What platforms is the city on?
I think the better question is what aren't we on? But we're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, Reddit, Nextdoor, and YouTube.
So, to have 40, that clearly means that we have multiple channels on Facebook and all of the others, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so from what you've seen, what are the biggest channels for residents participating with us?
So I would say the biggest channel for resident participation would be Facebook and Nextdoor. So that way people can kind of comment and connect with their neighbors and other people that live in Plano. But the biggest also for resident participation for sharing their photos is actually Instagram. So we use a lot of user generated content. So photos taken by our residents or people who just love Plano and share them there. So that's a great way for people to get involved if they want to share some of their own content. We use the hashtag love Plano. So if people use that, then we get to see their photos and we love to reshare those.
So, Ava, my next question is really kind of three questions put into one. What is the best way for people to get help when they have problems, or if they want to leave a comment or send an email?
So I would say the best way for residents to get help when they have a problem like potholes, missed trash, recycling, property maintenance, issues with parks, or anything like that, is actually submitting it through Fix It Plano. That way it goes directly to the appropriate department. And we don't need to be the middleman taken care of sooner that way. If a resident has something that they can't find on Fix It Plano or our website, the easiest thing is for them to send us a message so it doesn't get lost in the comments. And then we try to help them out from there and direct them however need be.
So, what is a typical day like in the city's social media world?
Typical day is usually pretty busy. I'll get up and I'll check anything that's happened from the night before. It involves a lot of writing and scheduling our content, planning ahead for future content and any upcoming events, responding to residents' questions that come in throughout the day on all of our channels, as well as running around Plano and kind of capturing photos and videos or anything that's going on, making some graphics and researching trends. I also have some work to complete outside of social media, so I definitely just don't spend all day scrolling on Facebook.
That's probably a healthy thing to not be on it all.
Definitely.
Well, Steve, a lot of people don't know that, I mean, we're not on TikTok, and there are lots of reasons that we aren't, but ABBA does TikTok style videos and puts those on Instagram and Facebook. So she's kind of the secret behind the crazy trending videos. She's out shooting those. So she does a great job.
I saw one this morning that I thought was incredible. I mean, it was a simple, straightforward message in probably about 10 seconds or less.
Was it the how to prevent your pipes from freezing
Yes.
and all the winter weather prep? Yeah, that was a big
Yes.
one.
And it was one. Not only do residents ask a lot of questions, but I think we've all had personal experience, even within this team. We've had our pipes freeze, and so like, let us help you not have the same thing happen to you.
Exactly. Yeah, I remembered to tweet out and remind all the residents during our last cold freeze to drip their faucets and totally forgot to drip my own and woke up to some frozen pipes. And I was like, reminded everyone, I just forgot to do it myself.
It happens. So we're not perfect. Well, speaking of like little videos about how to not have your pipes freeze over, what kind of information can people find on each of the channels?
Facebook is a great place to find a little bit of everything. So, urgent news to some announcements and even some fun. I love putting some fun holiday posts up there and seasonal posts. Twitter's the best place to find urgent news and alerts. Usually, if something's big going on, it'll be on Twitter first because it's the quickest and easiest. And we can also reshare from a lot of bigger departments or emergency management and stuff like that, that it'll come directly from them. Instagram's the best place that I say to find the fun in Plano, and that's from the resident images I talked about earlier, and also our fun but educational reels. And then Nextdoor is a great place for kind of learning more about your local neighborhood and your community and how that relates to any city services that we might provide. And then YouTube's the best place to find all things video. So you can find council meetings and then Stoller on the Street, which is another fun series that you can find there.
Oh, very good. Speaking of fun and holidays, are there fun things coming in February?
There are lots of fun things coming in February. So I've decided that February is all about sharing the love. So we will have some fun Valentine's Day cards coming our way soon to all the channels. And then we will also have dating profiles for all the pets for the month of February. And then we also wanted to share our love for our residents by going kind of back to the basics and reminding residents, whether they're new or have been residents for a long time, of all the services and special things that the city provides and how they can find all of that.
And is there anything else you want residents to know about connecting with the city?
So we love to connect with the residents on social media. So make sure to follow us on all of our channels. And we also love to help our residents. So sometimes residents ask really interesting questions that we might not have known the answer to. So it's always kind of fun learning something new. But I always want to remind people that there's a person on the other side of the screen, and using some kindness goes a long way.
Wonderful. And by the way, thank you for the Stoller on the Street plug, Abba. Appreciate that.
Always.
Well, that is our special guest for today on our podcast, Abba Yaney, Communications Specialist. Abba, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for
And we'll
having
look
me.
forward to seeing all your future posts on social media for the city.
Thanks, guys.
Well, I personally have to say, I loved our guest today because Ava works on my team and she is an incredible talent. And I feel like we are very, very fortunate to have her as a member of Team Plano.
She's been a great addition to your great team.
She's a lot of fun for sure, and creative, which is fantastic. Well, let's talk about those other things. We've got two quick things we want to leave everybody with that are pretty important things that are happening in February. The first is our first ever 2022 Plano listening tour. Think about guided focus groups. That's what a listening tour is. We have more than 20 stops throughout the city, all types of locations, times, days throughout the month of February, in small groups where a facilitator will lead a discussion with you. And it's really future thinking. So forward thinking, for getting input, getting feedback. City Council's role. I'll be attending some of those sessions. It's not going to be a lot of us there from the city, but there'll be a handful every time. City management, of course. And our job is to listen and hear what you have to say. And that input that you're providing provides guidance to the City Council and to our city leadership as they develop the long-range vision for Plano. So we really want to hear from our residents. And sometimes it's hard to know, like, what do you want to hear? Again, a facilitator is leading the conversation, so there'll be starter questions to get your brain moving. And there are lots of options: virtual, in person. So please go sign up today. We have the link to do that in the show notes. It will be going on throughout the month of February. I think it's one of the more impactful things that we're doing that really helps us understand issues, priorities, concerns, and to hear those directly from you, not just what we think they are, but what you tell us that they are. So we want to hear from you. So please sign up today.
And Shauna, you mentioned 20 different locations. If by chance you can't get to one of those locations, or if you don't feel comfortable with COVID out there, we're also going to have 5 virtual meetings as well.
Correct.
Yeah. We also want to tell you about our first town hall meeting of 2022. That will be Thursday, February 24th. And our topic's a big one: public safety. We have our new fire chief, Chris Biggerstaff, who will be there, our police chief, Ed Drain, our director of emergency management, Carrie Little, the director of public safety communications, Susan Carr, and Jamie Cantrell, our director of animal services. They'll all be available to answer all of your questions.
We've never done public safety as a topic for town hall, so this will be a first, and it's always a popular topic, so it'll be interesting to dedicate a town hall to it. Well, with that, you can tell February is a big month. And of course, it's the month of love. We want to remind you that we love you, Plano, and we love getting your feedback. So here we are, episode 49 of the Inside Plano podcast. You've told us you love it, and we love doing it. So give us your feedback. And while you're at it, give us a rating so that other people can find our podcast. If you have topics or guests that you'd like us to bring on the show, send us a note and let us know what those are at askplano@plano.gov. But until then, have a wonderful February, and we hope to see you at a listening tour stop or at the town hall.
Thank you, everybody. We'll see you soon.
Bye.
And that's it for our Inside Plano. We hope you enjoyed it as much as we did doing it.
If you have any comments or suggestions, send them to us at askplano@plano.gov. Bye.
Talk to you next month. The Inside Plano podcast is brought to you by the City of Plano.